And I'm so excited to have our first guest. He is a best-selling author and the Emmy-winning host of All In with Chris Hayes, which airs weeknights at 8 on MSNBC. He also hosts the podcast, Why Is This Happening? Please welcome back to the show, our friend, Chris Hayes. You?
I'm great. This is great.
Isn't it nice?
It really is.
It's a nice. When we should know you've been on the show a lot, but we looked back, and the last time you were here was the day of the inauguration, and you had to sit on the other side of the couch.
That's right.
There was nobody
at that point, COVID was only traveling 5 feet.
Yeah.
So
and then it would COVID would go, but then would just lose steam and
right there. I was over there.
So that what would happen is in between the crew would come and they'd clean up all the COVID that had landed between the desks.
Exactly.
So we talked kind of at inauguration about how it felt like we had just avoided a car crash, and so it wasn't a situation where you felt joy. It was more like adrenaline and excitement. Now we're 9 months in. It also does not feel particularly joyous right now.
Yeah, I think there was for me, there was a kind of a window of joy, which was that post when I got the vaccine in April,
yep.
and we hadn't been hit by Delta yet. My brother got married. He had delayed this wedding. We had an actual wedding. It felt incredibly joyful. And then I think a huge part of it was just Delta coming back,
yeah.
and watching this play out, and the really needless human suffering that came with that. And then I think also this feeling of, like, when you're troubleshooting something and you unplug it and plug it back in, and you're like, please just work. And it's like, oh, the error message is still there.
Yeah.
And it feels like that a little bit with like American society.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, right, the error message is still there. Like the Delta is still there, the deep divisions, the incipient and blossoming authoritarian anti-democratic movement capturing one of our two parties, the anti-vax disinformation that's provoked, like all of that is still there. And I think just dealing with that and dealing with the fact that we're living through this period of extended abnormality is really hard.
It also, the results of the election obviously was something I think that gave some of us a great amount of hope. And then the result for the people that were upset, it seemed like they've been very coldly efficient in using that loss to sort of gird for this next election. And it's troubling as I think I might worry that it's going to be.
I'm pretty worried about it. I mean, I think one thing to think about here is that one thing I think we've learned is that the way that democracies work is through a kind of social consensus about the winner winning and the loser losing. And when you take that away, you're faced with something much more perilous. And then when you take that away, and then you're faced with someone that wants to essentially create a litmus test, a defining issue around this stabbed in the back narrative, you're dealing with stuff that's like really, really dangerous to American democracy. And I think, human beings are really good at adapting. I think I said this before in your show in the midst of COVID, but it's like, we're just like, oh, well, January 6th happened, and we had a once in a century pandemic, and, what can I watch on Netflix tonight?
Right.
It's like, but that stuff is real, and it's urgent, and it's present, and I think it's hard to sort of see it for what it is just day by day.
One of the things that Democrats have this very small window to do, it strikes me before midterms, is show people that they're a party worth governing.
Yes.
And it strikes me that this bill right now, the Build Back Better bill, bad name, right?
Yeah, not great.
No.
Yeah.
I mean, I feel like I feel like we correctly said Be Best was a terrible name for Melania's drama. And like
nothing beats Be Best.
No, but like
Be Best better.
Build Back Better is like only a little bit better than Be Best.
Yes.
But we've talked about it. We had Senator Elizabeth Warren here yesterday, and a lot of people have framed this bill as a number, right? $3.5 trillion. I think that's a thing that people on the street could tell you far faster than they could tell you what is in this bill. Have Democrats done a bad job telling this story? Has the media done a bad job reporting this story?
I think it's three things. I think the media's done a pretty bad job of telling it. I think Democrats have not done a great job as well. The weird thing, though, is this is all reverse engineered around the procedural imperative. They get one reconciliation bill, right, to avoid the 60-vote threshold because they don't want to get rid of the filibuster, at least Manchin and Sinema, maybe a few others don't. So that means everything's got to go in the one bill. So then it's very hard to message a bill that's got 6 or 7 different things in it which under normal circumstances you could pass, like, here's our elder care bill and our child care bill and our climate and utility bill and our carbon-free bill and our, paid family leave bill. All that stuff is good stuff that would be popular. Instead, it's all put into a blender and you've got the, the Build Back Better smoothie. and it's a little hard, I think, to sell that partly because of this weird procedural constraints. The other thing I'll say about the price, it drives me insane.
Yeah.
If I say to you, okay, I have one thing here that's $27 and this is $65, it's like, which do you want? It's like, I don't know. What's in, this is a bunch of rat carcasses for $27. Like, well, I don't want that.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, this is actually an apartment in New York City, 2 bedrooms, $65. Like, yes, please give that to me.
Yeah.
The price means nothing without an awareness of what's in it. And I agree that has really come to define what the bill is.
And obviously now, I think there's a frustration for people who would say, hey, you guys are in charge. You have the House, you have the Senate, you have the presidency, Democrats, what's your problem? But the reality is the Democrats have the Senate not only by a razor-thin margin, but it's kind of a miracle they have 50 Democratic senators.
I mean, I think for that period between Election Day and January 5th, which was the day that those 2 Georgia senators were elected, I think the expectation was it was going to be McConnell's Senate, nothing was going to get done. It was maybe not going to be able to confirm any nominees. The fact they have the majority is a miracle. The fact they passed the American Rescue Plan as quickly as they did is sort of a miracle. So, when you take a step back, you think, where did you think you would be in December before those 2 improbable victories? And we're in better shape. The other thing I always say to people is, look, you're asking full consensus. Like, if I took 50 people from this audience and we're like, what movie should we watch tonight? You could not get them to agree.
Yeah.
When you're 15 family members, you're like, what should we eat for dinner?
I will sell. I could get 50 of them to agree the Old Scottish Detective was a dud. I could find maybe even 100. I have more to ask you. We'll be right back with more from Chris Hayes.